Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Game on Cloud 9 here, and I'm here to bring you guys a new Naruto manga 646 prediction. And I'm finally back. I'm back up at school. Obviously I haven't done a video in a little bit. My video's been a little inconsistent lately. Don't really have much of an excuse for that other than I've been busy and I've been doing a number of different things. One thing in particular, actually, I've been making or trying to make my own manga for the Shonen Jump competition. If any of you guys know about it, that I'm trying to actually enter by the end of the month with a few different people. So I've been trying to come up with ideas for that since we kind of got started on it somewhat late, I guess you could say, so that I can actually enter it and hopefully do pretty well. So maybe after it's finished, maybe I'll show you guys what we actually came up with. But anyway, to get on to this week's Naruto chapter, let me just start off by saying, I told you so. Yeah, I told you so, that Naruto was going to go ahead and combine Sage Mode and BG Mode. Now, a lot of you guys out there probably just said, wait, hold on, Game on Cloud 9. Plenty of people have said this before. This has been predicted before numerous times. But this is something that I actually predicted long before, a few weeks ago. I'm talking about back to like 2011, and I actually have proof of that. I actually, on Naruto forums, actually posted up, and I can actually probably find it. I'll probably link it below in the description, where I was actually made a prediction that Naruto would combine his Sage Mode and Chakra Mode. Now, some of you again may also say, okay, but we've seen him combine, his Nine Tails mode and his Chakra, or his Nine Tails mode and his Sage mode, as seen when it was foreshadowed somewhat during the Pain arc, which is kind of actually no, actually that's actually what I did base it off of. But I know a lot of people back then. There were some people that thought it was impossible. Some people thought it, would happen, but I know there was plenty of people that didn't think that that would actually be the case, or that it would really happen. And after a certain point, I started to become a little bit doubtful myself. But obviously, it finally happened. Naruto got another power boost. So Naruto, obviously, he's just getting ridiculous right now. But before I get into Naruto's power levels and where he's going to be, or at least where I think he's going to be in the next, like from here on to the end of the series, let me just go ahead and just give a summary of the whole chapter. So basically, the chapter starts off with us seeing Minato leaving off where we were in the previous chapter, him crying and looking at his son, and basically he's saying he's getting a nostalgic feeling basically from Kushina when they fought side by side in combat together, and so he's actually getting some confidence from his son. The fact that he's still, like, his son is standing up to this huge threat, and his son doesn't hold any ill will towards him or anything like that. So it's actually helping him in terms of emotionally the regrets that he actually died with. So you can obviously see, where Minato's, I guess you could say his most of his feelings lie as far as before he died. About how he felt about Naruto. Was Naruto going to be all right? Was it the right thing that he did as far as being able to seal the Nine Tails into his own son? So he even had his own little doubts about that. So I found that pretty interesting, of course. And then I like the fact in the previous chapter Naruto said some touching words to him. But anyway, from that point on, we actually had a little bit of a comic relief in this week's chapter, and I actually felt like it was actually pretty good. You had basically Naruto. He's in BG mode already. He's getting ready to hop off into battle. Naruto just seems mad cocky now, because if I remember correctly in the chapter, he was like talking about how everybody's like got his chakra or something like that, or like everybody's just throwing, or he's just throwing his chakras all over the place, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but the way he worded it just seemed kind of cocky. And I'm like, okay, Naruto, I understand you're powerful now, but dang, I don't know, there's no need to be real cocky. But anyway, he from that point on, I believe that was when Toby Rama said to him, like, hold on, hold it, take a few steps back. You didn't seriously forget that you need senjutsu, right? If you did, then you're on a whole different level in terms of stupidity than Hashirama, my brother. And then that was the moment where Naruto like pounds his own head, like, oh my gosh, like I did forget, and I find that kind of hilarious. It felt like just typical Naruto, in terms of how he does things. Naruto, like, back in part one was like that. I know, and he hasn't really done that too much in part two, but every once in a while you have those moments. So it was a little nice touch. I actually like the comedy right there. And I'm trying to think of another comedic moment, because I know there was a few comedic moments. There was a comedic moment between Kurama and Naruto. A little bit there of them arguing with each other. So I like that moment as well. I thought that was pretty nicely placed as far as in the chapter goes. But the main focus from that point on, Naruto obviously starts talking with Kurama about the whole Biju mode and Sage mode. Kurama tells him why he couldn't combine Sage mode and Biju mode together, and that he actually has done it before. Naruto wasn't aware of that. So then Naruto proceeds to get ready to go ahead and do that, and at the same time, Minato goes into Biju mode, due to, of course, the Yin Nine Tails, who, tells him, hey, we're not going to, let you stay out of this party. We're going to go ahead and, help you reach this new level too, so you'll be actually of some use. So they go ahead and they're both in Biju mode. You see like a black Nine Tails, and of course, the Nine Tails Naruto's always had side by side. Minato makes a Rasengan. They go into combat. Tobirama uses Flying Thunder gadgets. They teleport in the barrier, try to attack Obito. Obito, of course, tries to shield himself from it, but since it's mixed with Senjutsu chakra, it actually starts to break down his technique some. So then Obito gets frustrated from that point on, of course, and then that's when we see him prepare to get ready to do the Infinite Tsukuyomi towards the end of the chapter. So that's pretty much the whole chapter in a nutshell, minus the minor things like Madara making his own comment about how he's doing Infinite Tsukuyomi this quickly, and before I guess he had a chance to do anything. Which is kind of funny because sometimes Madara almost seems like, do you really even have a plan? Because you're just sitting here messing around with Hashirama. I don't know, but yeah, that's just Madara. I mean, it's almost like he forgot what he was doing. But I mean, I do think that he probably does have something up his sleeve. It just involves maybe something to do with maybe Hashirama's power. Maybe they have to do some kind of fusion dance. Heck, at this point, I don't really know. But at the end of the chapter, finally the Infinite Tsukuyomi is getting ready to get started, and it looked like the Ten Tails appeared. Although I don't think that was really the Ten Tails. I think that it was the Ten Tails, but I think it was more or less like almost like maybe this is the mode that we've seen Obito in this entire time. Maybe it's somewhat like his chakra mode, and then maybe him going into Biju mode is what we just saw. That's just a guess. I don't know if that's true or not, but maybe that's just maybe that's actually what he just did, is went into his own version of a Biju mode. But I could be wrong. Now, to get on to the prediction, or better yet, let me get on to the rating of things. As far as this chapter goes in terms of, pacing, I felt like it was pretty well paced. You had, an explanation as far as or in the beginning, you left off where Minato was talking about, of course, his feelings, how he feels with Naruto and him fighting side by side. You had bits of comedy placed throughout the chapter that were nicely fit in there, that had to deal with the situation that they were already in. And then on top of that, you had, pretty good cliffhanger, and you even had a transformation in this week's chapter with some action. So I feel like it had a little bit of everything, like little salt and pepper all throughout the chapter. So in terms of a rating, I actually want to give this week's chapter Kage level. I don't know if everybody agrees with that rating, but I think that's a pretty fair rating to give it, seeing as how it had a little bit of everything. I thought the artwork was actually really nice this week. Didn't have any problems with it. Couldn't really pick any panels out that looked like real crazy or anything like that. So, I feel like that's a fair judgment to give it. Is Kage level for this week. Now, as far as my prediction for future weeks, now, of course, I'm doing a prediction next week. To the best of my ability, I'm going to try to do one. But oh yeah, I forgot about the whole thing with Sasuke. So that's another thing. I feel like this chapter, even though it got straight down to the point, there was a number of different things that happened. One thing I noticed in this week's chapter is that Sasuke got pretty jealous himself. Seeing Naruto's power, how powerful he's gotten. How much he's been able to do, and you can kind of see how far behind Sasuke's lagged behind Naruto at this point. And not to mention, Naruto doesn't even have the other half of the Nine Tails yet. He doesn't even have the other half yet. And we know he's going to get it, and he's already stronger than Sasuke with Biju mode. Now he's combined it with Sage mode, and Chakra mode is probably stronger than Sasuke. And if it's not, it's probably giving him a run for his money. So at this point, it's like, Sasuke, yeah, you really do need a power-up. As for what I think is going to happen, though, in the future, though, I think obviously, I actually think maybe the Infinite Tsukuyomi may actually start, and it may actually be, a few chapters in the Infinite Tsukuyomi. I mean, that would be a little nice touch to actually see, this whole Infinite Tsukuyomi, what Obito's been talking about, what he actually pictures as his own world. and actually we can see the shinobi in their own realities, and maybe somehow Naruto, through some particular means, is going to have to go about breaking it. Now, I don't know if the Shinobi Alliance are really going to be involved in the chapters for a little bit. And the only reason why I say it is because I noticed that they went back into the barrier, and I also think that them going back into the barrier is going to keep it, so that obviously the top tiers can fight amongst themselves, and we don't have to worry about fodder dying all over the place. Kishimoto can pretty much do what he wants with it. Because you have Toriyama in the barrier with Naruto, Minato, Hashirama Madara inside the barrier, and you have Obito obviously doing his thing in there. And all the other people are outside the barrier, where I guess you could say it's safe because that barrier is pretty darn strong. So, I think they're going to be good for the next few chapters. I think the Infinite Tsukuyomi may actually start up, and obviously, I think that this, the little bits that Kishimoto's been putting as far as for Sasuke, the little comments he's made, the progression he's been paying attention to how strong Naruto's been getting. I think this is only going to drive him more and more really trying to fight Naruto. I mean, I can't really see it going south. Some people think that he's just gonna, maybe say, well, we're at the end of the day, Naruto, you're just stronger than me. I mean, some people think that. Personally, I don't really think so, because I mean, I've seen this some people said this on forums. I actually think for Neverworld, I'm not saying that he said that this is going to happen. I think he thinks that there's a possibility that maybe Sasuke could actually say this. Maybe actually, maybe think that Naruto is the best and just go along with it. I mean, if I'm wrong, you can correct me. For Neverworld, if you're watching this, you can correct me if I heard you wrong. But I think that's what he said. And yeah, I mean, so I think that's probably going to be the case where Sasuke obviously is going to be driven more. I expect that maybe he's going to get the Rinnegan. I mean, I think this is pretty much a given now. He's going to have to get Perfect Susanoo. And now I'm actually starting to think maybe he'll even learn how to use Sage Jutsu. Because at this particular point, Sage Jutsu is something that he hasn't tapped into at all. And he needs to actually learn how to use it, if he went, or probably learn how to get something else other than just eye techniques to be able to compete with Naruto, considering the fact that now he's not only using the Kyuubi's power, but he's also using the Sage power, and he's going to get the other half of the Nine Tails as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my general thoughts on this week's Naruto chapter, and what I think is going to happen in future chapter, or at least in probably the next chapter. I'm thinking next chapter, of course, like I said, Infinite Tsukuyomi ready to get started up. Maybe Kakashi's return will be somewhat soon, I'm thinking. And, mainly probably focus on them probably, getting ready to either prepare to stop him from using it. So probably next chapter, they're probably either going to be preparing to try to stop him from using it, but I think probably the end of the chapter will probably mainly focus on it actually activating for real, since obviously this is just the start of it. So anyway, this is my thoughts on this week's chapter of Naruto and what I think is going to happen in future chapters. Look forward to seeing a video from me next week. There shouldn't be a reason why I don't, but I'm going to make sure I do a better job of letting you guys know what's going on with my channel from here on out. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Put a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Put a thumbs down if you didn't. It's your choice. Anyway,